Hello everybody and welcome to Going for Goldbridge Delayed. I'm going to start off with a shit sandwich because if anybody follows me on social media or on United Stands, you'll know that I sort of owned up to having a bit of a bad week this week, which I think is very important because I always talk about like mental health and bad moods and things like that, but when it actually hits you, it's difficult. And I think that I've not learnt a lot this week. I've just not had a week like that for a long time. And you know, for all the people, and myself included, who say it's okay to be okay, you've got to talk, when you're actually in it, and I was in it this week, it's very, very difficult. So we'll be talking about that in a moment. But I don't want it to be all doom and gloom because I actually feel a lot better now and I'm very grateful to, you know, family and friends and a lot of people on social media who've been very, very supportive. But we'll talk about that in a minute. We're going to do a shit sandwich. And the way a shit sandwich works is you put the shit in the middle, you have 2 layers of bread, positivity either side. So we're going to start off with something positive because people always say, have you got any funny stories from your past when you were at school and stuff? Well, I've been watching a very good series. I've only watched 2 episodes so far. I think they've only released 2 episodes, which is why I've only watched 2. It's called Dublin Murders. It's on BBC One on 9 o'clock on a Monday and Tuesday night. Very, very good. And it's sort of got me thinking about Irish things like taters and red lemonade and leprechauns, obviously, just to be stereotypical. But no, it got me thinking about a couple of funny stories because Dublin Murders is about the police over in Ireland, and even Irish people, unless it's changed in the last 10 years, sort of take the piss out of the Irish police. And they're not bad, but they've just got a reputation for being a bit bad. And it just reminded me of 2 stories I had. I'll tell you one, first of all, that was in Malahide where I lived, and one night we were coming home and everyone goes to the chipper. They call it the chipper over there. It's the chip shop. So you go to the pub until 1 or 2 in the morning, and on the way home everyone goes to the chip shop, gets themselves a bag of chips. It's weird. If you live in the UK and you have fish, I mean, this is a conversation in itself. Tangents, you see. Fish and chips in the UK is very territorial. Like if you go up north, you can get different things that you can get. You won't get gravy down south in a fish and chip shop, but up north you'll get gravy. And in Ireland, the chip shop's totally different. There is no curry sauce, there is no gravy, and there is no mushy peas, or there wasn't when I was there. And you get it in a brown bag. And they do burgers. So very, very different, but still very satisfying after a night full of beer. So anyway, me and the mates, we've been in the pub, we get ourselves some fish and chips, and we're walking home 10 minutes from the chip shop to where we live, and we cross this road, and one of the lads who's pissed, Kieran, has decided to nick the bottle of vinegar. So we walk across the road, and of course we're all 2 sheets to the wind, pissed, and this red car pulls up in front of us and beeps, because we cross the road and basically we walk out in front of a car. So he beeps, and Kieran goes, all right mate, chill out, have some vinegar on your chips, and starts tipping vinegar all over the bonnet of the car. We're laughing, but we're not laughing for long, as we noticed while he continues to tip on the car that 2 police officers get out of the car. They're in an unmarked vehicle, and we're like, oh, this is going to be fun. He's about to get arrested. And fair play to them. This is typical of my experience with the local police in Ireland, with which I had a few. Is that they don't want the paperwork. We don't want the paperwork. So what do? They put him in the back of the car. Of course, when you're drunk, you're a bit brave. So I went, what are you doing? And they went, you stay out of it. And they drive off. We decide to walk home, and then about 5 minutes later, Kieran's shouting, running up the road. He catches up with us. What they'd done is they'd driven him back to the chip shop and told him to give the vinegar back, which he said was quite humiliating because the chip shop was full and he had to walk to the front and announce that he'd nicked the vinegar, and everyone jeered him and stuff. But yeah, didn't get taken to the police station. But a funny story, fancy that, you know. Do you want some vinegar on your chips? Tipping it on the front of an unbeknown car that was a police car with police people in it. I'll tell you another story about them in a moment, which is worse than that one. But anyway, yeah, some serious stuff. So yeah, difficult week, very, very difficult week. No real major event, to be honest with you. A few people messaged me and say, what's happened? And I think this is the thing about moods. I don't want to say depression because I'm not an antidepressant. I don't want to say mental health because I don't want to acknowledge that I've got mental health issues, although I think we all have. And I must admit, the issue with it is that there is a stigma attached to it. And you know, I've spoken a lot about this on social media, on my Twitter account, and on previous videos about the importance of recognising that it's okay not to be okay. But actually, when you don't feel okay, and you really don't feel okay, those words don't really help. They don't. And I felt a bit of a hypocrite because all this talk about it's okay not to be that okay, I'm here to talk if you need me. But when you're in that mood, if it was just as easy as going, it's okay not to be okay, or pick up a phone to a friend, you would just do it and you'd be fine, all right. It isn't solved like that, and this is the thing. And you know, I've always had dark moods, not dark thoughts. They're very different. I have dark moods where sometimes you just feel cloudy, you just don't feel good. It's like a despair feeling, and there's no logical reason for it. Some people feel despair because for many things they're grieving or something like that. No, it's just a mood thing. It's, you know, the brain is a very, very complex thing, and as I said, just an imbalance in your brain can play with your moods, of course. If a drink can make your brain go all happy and stupid, then imagine what your brain can do without that. You know, it can do anything. So what happened to me this week is that I just had a Tuesday. I don't like Tuesdays. It's normally my down day. Felt a bit down, and then a load of other things happened externally. A lot of it was work stuff, external stress and pressures, you know, getting a little bit fed up with things, and it builds up. And I suppose that camel, the camel that breaks the straw's back, the straw that breaks the camel's back, it was a culmination of things that just sort of sent me right down. And then the best of all was, about 9 o'clock on the night, I'd just done United Stand, and I actually said on the show, I stopped after 5 minutes and said I don't feel good, and everyone was very supportive. Went after the show finished, went and had a nice bath and that, and got into bed watching TV with the wife, and then got a message through the phone about my daughter's football team, which are currently banned from playing football because the FA are inept in Birmingham and are listening to the team that they used to play, who are basically inept and a bunch of bullies, and they've not been able to play football this season, and they've had the sort of meeting about it, and they've upheld the ban. So that was just another thing on top of it. So a lot of stress, really. So, and I think that's really important, because people say, well, you know, oh, is it because you're grieving? Is it because something's happened in your life? And a lot of mental illness, depressions, bad moods are not about that. It can be the most irrelevant thing that can make you feel like that. And as I said, when I was in that mood, you know, the wife went out and bought me on a Wednesday. She came home from work with like a box of stuff, like a treat box, and this will make you laugh. Had like aftershave. I really like. This is stupid. This goes back to my police days, because when you used to go and have to go to dead bodies and post-mortems and stuff, and you know, horrible places, like, you know, God, 90% of police work is going to horrible places, and I mean like shithole flats that stink and everything like that. So I always used to carry one of these little Vic nose things where you go, and you know, it just makes your nose smell of Vic. I haven't got it with me at the moment, so she bought me one of those. I haven't had it in years, and I just like it as a comfort thing. And she bought me a bag of Brazil nut toffee, and on the evening I was sat there playing a bit of FIFA, just a bit of relaxation time, chewing on some toffee, and I went, oh, that's a very hard piece of nut. Took it out of my mouth, and it's my bloody crown has come out. So I was just like, one of those weeks, to be honest with you. But look, I feel good now. And I think acknowledgement of it is very, very important, and that's why I wanted to talk about it in this video, because I can still feel it now. You know, when you have an episode like that, it's not like you wake up the next day and you feel fine again. You feel sort of bruised by it. It's like it's a feeling in here with me. This is where I get it, in here, and it's like it just grabs me, and I can still feel it from Tuesday. I still feel like the recovery of it. And I feel totally vulnerable talking about it, because I feel fine now, and I don't like talking about it. And I do think there's a stigma attached to it, and I do think people mock you for it still. There were some messages that I got on social media, DMs and stuff, that people were sort of saying, oh, why didn't you just go and do this or that? Which I totally accept. I'm not saying that for a violin. In fact, that's the world's smallest violin. There are knobheads out there, but look, if that couple of minutes helps some people, great. All I can do is face up to it and my issues myself. I got a message from somebody who's a very big YouTuber, actually, and I'm not going to shout them out, because it's not. I would like to shout them out, but I'm not going to shout them out, because I don't know whether they want me to shout them out. But they were sort of like saying, "Oh, if you ever want to chat about it," and I said, "You know what? I think this world that we operate in, and you know, YouTubers, I wouldn't even be that arrogant. I just think social media in general. You don't have to be a big YouTuber. I think social media in general is very, very difficult." And I said to that person, I said, look, when I was in the police, I've seen dead bodies. I've seen children treated like you would not believe. I've seen horrible things in society. But within the police, to be fair, they've got support mechanisms. There's counselling. There's loads and loads of stuff you can read about dealing with those scenarios. And they're not easy to deal with, and they do mess with your head, but there's stuff there. With social media, there's no manual. There is no manual for being called all sorts of stuff. You know, for people, you know, there isn't one. and it's very difficult. This is very difficult at times, and that's nothing to do with me. That's to do with you lot as well. If you put a tweet out and suddenly people think he's a knobhead or she's a knobhead and start picking on you, it's very, very difficult. So, look, all I would say is just keep the door open. Keep the door open. But I'm not going to be one of those hypocrites anymore who goes, it's okay to be okay. Just pick up the phone and talk to somebody, because I've not had an episode like I had in the week for a long time, and when I felt like that, I made myself do it. And I got a lot of support, and it did help. But at the time, did I want to wear a t-shirt saying it's okay to be okay? Did I really want to tell the world that I didn't feel good? No, I still felt guilty about it. And I think, it's a massive, massive issue. And I think Piers Morgan said it himself, that there's so much talk about it now, yet there seems to be more and more people harming themselves and having problems with mental health. So I just think it's a society issue. I think it is. I think it's so sad. I see my kids and I see other kids, and they're so sat there all the time like this. And I think that is the problem. That is the problem. And I even thought the other day, should we think about, abolishing phones and iPads and social media? And I thought, well, no, because the purpose of it is so good. I would hate not to have my phone to be able to go on Twitter and everything for the football. But where it goes wrong a little bit is that you've got to take yourself away from it sometimes. You've got to open your eyes, because I think for some people, I was in a restaurant a couple of weeks ago. I could not believe it. Good-looking couple, and I can say that, I'm not homosexual or anything like that. They were a good-looking couple. They were dressed well, nice clothes. They turn up. They've got no kids. I'm like, that's the evening I want. We're sat just 2 tables away with all the kids and me and the wife, and it's good. I enjoy it, but sometimes you do just want a night out on your own. And they sat there, and I'm a bit of a people watcher sometimes, and most of the time she was on her phone, and then he just took his out and went on it, because to be fair to him, I thought he wanted to be involved in the conversation, but she was just constant. She was actually eating on her phone as well, and I thought, you've got it all wrong, love. That is very, very good, but when that is more important than the people that are around you, you're going wrong. They're so obsessed with what's going on. The world's happening around them. Anyway, I'll do another good story, and then I'm going to start into some of your live comments. Second story also involves the chip shop, also involves the police, and also involves drink. And we were in the chip shop. This was another night. We're in the chip shop in Malahide again. I wonder if that chip shop's still there, actually. I'm making it famous. It's just off the high street. We're in the chip shop at the end of the night again. Always very, very busy. We're queuing up for our chips, and there's a bit of a fight going on outside, and we're all watching. You couldn't really tell what happens. And this lad runs into the chip shop, right? And the lads who are trying to beat him up are stood at the door. And they're like, come out. And the chip shop's owner says, I don't want any trouble. Get out my pub. It's also a pub and a chip shop. It's just a chip shop. The lad's saying, if I go out there, I'm going to get fucking beat up and all this. So the chip shop owner calls the police. And it's a bit of a standoff. The police turn up. We're all watching it thinking the police are going to solve this. You'll never guess what the police said. The police officer goes, right there, boy. We're going to drive... I'm not going to do an Irish accent. We're going to drive around the block. And when we come back, you better not be here. And then they drove off. And I just looked at my mates and went, what? And within 2 seconds of that, the lad in the chip shop just runs out the door, because it's a 2-door thing, runs out the door, and the lads go running after him. I don't know whether they caught up with him, and if they did, they'd probably give him a good hiding. But I thought, that's effective use of resources in Dublin then, is it? There's a lad who's about to get beat up. Again, they don't want the paperwork. If we come back and you're still here, I don't know what they were going to do if he was still... I would have waited and said, yes, I'm still here because I don't want to get my head kicked in. But there we go. Right, let's go to some of your questions. Harvey United X says that, what would you rank Morrison's, Asda and Tesco in order? Ooh, I'm going to still put Tesco. Oh, no, actually, I'm going to put... I don't know. It's close. Morrison's, Asda or Tesco. European people and worldwide people are going, what you want about? I can't split them. All I would say is that... Waitrose is better than all. I don't shop at Waitrose. Will you and Flex have a chess match? I'd batter him, Jay. I'd batter him at that. The Cure versus the Smiths. I'd go with the Smiths. There is a light and it never goes out. Thoughts on Ronaldo returning to United? Not interested in football, thank you. What is the meaning of life, says Tom Walsh. It's whatever you want it to be. If your life is to never get married, never have kids, and just do your selfish things yourself, I don't mean that's selfish, but if that's your choice, that's your choice. It's what you want. For me, what's the point? What's the meaning of life? to just make an impact in a positive way. I think, I don't even want to say procreation. I mean, having kids was important to me, but some people can't even have that. So for me, that was important. But I think it's just really, when I look at all the people I've known and died, whether it's the lad I knew who was around my age when he died, or whether it was my granddad who died when he was like in his early 70s, they are gone, but I think about them a lot because they were good people. And there are people who've died who I don't think about because they weren't. So I think that is the legacy. It's not about thousands of people remembering you. I just think if one or two good people remember you for being a good person, then you've achieved it, really. You've achieved it. What do you think about mental health issues in the YouTube world, says Belgrade Wanderer? Well, we think we've just spoken about that, so hopefully that's covered it. Blessed place for some fish and chips, says Robert Vias. Sea Spray in Shirley in Birmingham is very, very good. Sea Spray, very, very good. And I had some very, very, very nice fish and chips at Morecambe Bay. They were very nice as well. I think that traditionally, if you're close to the coast, you tend to get better fish and chips, because I think it's something to do with they're next to the sea, and that's where fish live. What's your opinion on machines taking over the world, says Never Not Longstaff, and would you use that technology to bring back a lost one of yours if you had the opportunity? That's a bit of a headfuck time, isn't it, really? Could you bring back somebody? Will there be a time in the future where you can bring somebody back? I mean, it doesn't logically make any sense. If you think about Jurassic Park, and I'm not talking about United's defending, I'm talking about, the embryos that they recreate Tyrannosaurus Rex and that. Is there something where they could take the DNA of me in 200 times and bring me back? But it wouldn't be me, because it wouldn't be my brain, it would be the DNA of me, so it wouldn't even be me. So I don't think that's possible. I don't think we can live again. I think the only way that can happen is through some sort of... Well, actually, logically, I think it probably can, but it's not going to be any good for any of us lot, because if you think about this cryptocurrency, cryogenics, I think it's called cryptocurrency. That ain't going to help us. I invested in that, wasted bloody money, but... cryogenics, I think it's called, where you basically, and some people have had it, I think Walt Disney did it with his head, didn't he? I don't know whether that's a myth, actually. So basically when you die, you get frozen, and then there's this theory that you'll be able to be brought back to life. I think there might be something in that, and I've got no scientific knowledge, but I think if you preserve the body, there may be a way to start the engine again. It's a bit like a car, isn't it? If a car breaks down, you can maybe be able to build it again. But if you put it into a bloody incinerator and burn it, you'll never build that car again. So all these people who get cremated or buried, which is going to happen to me, will never come back. We might come back looking the same, but it won't be the same brain. So maybe the cryogenics way is the way to do it. I would imagine you could, but I suppose... Can you get the brain starting again? We'll do it. We'll definitely do it, but it won't be for us. Thoughts on the Hong Kong protests? Says Paulie G. To be honest, I've not even looked at it. Apparently, there's something going on in Chile, I think, as well. A state of emergency. Is it Chile or somewhere? So yeah, we've got a lot politically going on today with the Brexit negotiations. I just take a step back a lot of the time, to be honest. Are there any good party tricks you can do, says Drew Barnes. One or two, but not for this video. Will England win the World Cup, Tom? Well, Ireland have just been battered by New Zealand, so I think it's going to be very hard for England to beat New Zealand. And Mr. Clinical says, do you think that people are too interested in combating the symptoms of mental health issues as opposed to working on measures to combat mental health before it arises? I think that everybody as an individual has different triggers. It's very difficult, The old story has always been, if you look at a comedian, a lot of them have mental health issues in relation to depression, which I can relate to as a creator. It's not always, let's just go live and we're ready. A lot of prep goes into it because you've got to have a story to tell. And some people put so much effort into it. If you think about a stand-up comedian, very few of them just go and do an hour set off the top of their head. That will be rehearsed, thought out over weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. And when you're putting your brain through that pressure to create something like that, I think the brain doesn't react to pressure. Sometimes, and I've heard some very famous people say this, they envy the simple mind And that's not the crap music band from the 80s. I'm talking about, people whose life is just very, very simple. And that could be a farmer who just gets up works hard, but, I've got to feed the sheep. Nothing else to the sheep. You better not be doing anything else. Don't be doing anything else to those sheep, farmer. Just feed the sheep, shear them if you need to, send them to the shop for lamb, but don't worry any sheep. But it's a simplistic life, some would say, because it's. And also, what about the dole dosser? What about the people who don't work? They just get up in the morning, watch Richard and Judy. Well, they don't watch that anymore. They can't get on the telly for love and money. But they watch Good Morning with Phil and whatever her name is, Holly Willoughby's, and it's a very easy life. Whereas those people who are driven people who take on so much and always want to be working and that, you put a lot of pressure onto your brain. And I've just stereotyped 2, 3 or 4 different types of people there, and that's not the point. What I'm saying is that your brain can only take so much, and the more pressure you put onto it, the more stress you get under, and the more it will start to cry out for help. So, but everybody's triggered by different things, and that's the problem. If you've got a type of cancer, then a cancer specialist will know how to treat it. But if you've got a type of depression or mental health issue, it could be very unique to you. There is millions and millions of pathways to your particular issue. It could be something that happened in your childhood. It could be a life event in your adulthood. It could be a trauma of, in work, in a public space. There's so many reasons that could do it. Or it could just be combinations of things. Which is why it's so important to acknowledge it and try to deal with it. But as I said, this week for me, I sort of hit a low point, which I haven't done for a long time. I acknowledged it and I had to work through it. But it's like a bout of flu. If it was as easy as saying it's okay to be okay t-shirt and have a chat with somebody, you'd never feel bad. It is like a bout of flu. When you hit the low point, you don't feel good and you've got to recover. And like I said, I can still feel it in me. It's nowhere near as it did in the week, but I can still feel that sort of bruised feeling. It feels lesser and lesser by the day. And some people live with this every single day. I mean, I like I say, for me, there's this guilt. There's this guilt to even talk about it. And I think a lot of people feel like this, have a real guilt to even talk about it. I feel ashamed that, I know there's a lot of people with a lot more problems than I've got, and they're probably nowhere, they don't even have this. So there is shame, there is guilt, and that's why people stay quiet and stuff like that. So, and I feel like that now, even though I know 1 or 2 people might watch this and really relate to it, and then it does some good. But it isn't easy, but I think the saddest thing is when you read these stories about people who, they take a way out that we all know, whether it's famous people or young people, and that to me is such a shame, because I would not be that bad. I would like to think I would never ever be that bad, but you never know. But you've just got to try and be open about it, definitely. Black boots or colourful boots, says Rian Johnson. I'm always a black boot person. Puma Kings, ideally. I wouldn't be wearing colourful boots. I remember if you used to wear coloured boots, that was a free pass to absolutely take them out. But nowadays, everyone's doing it. Would you do a podcast with a certain somebody, says Incompetent Ed. If somebody asked me to do a podcast, I would probably say yes, because I'm that sort of person. Most people who meet me, one thing I would say is that there's a lot of lies that get floated out about me, and that's not why I get stressed or anything like that. That's just life. But actually, most people who've met me will say he's a nice bloke, and that's the most important thing to me. All these bullshitting twats on Twitter and everyone else who spreads lies and bollocks, they've never even bloody met me, so let them crack on. Thoughts on the Peaky Blinders? I'm not talking about that. That's had its day. Score prediction: Liverpool United. I've done that on the United Stand. This is a good one. I will answer this. At first I thought I wasn't going to answer it. Brogan Faris says, which would you prefer, sitting next to a crying baby or a smelly person on a 5-hour flight? Oh, God, a crying baby or a smelly person? Well, I can answer that very easily. As long as I've got that little Vic stick that my wife gave me, I'll sit with the smelly person, because the crying baby is going to give you a headache, isn't it? This is a good one. Tom Hazelwood says, what's your worst fear? Mine's falling off a cruise ship in the middle of the ocean and no one knows. Everybody has one like that, don't they? I'm not going to tell you what mine is because some sick twat will try and arrange it for me. So I don't, I want to keep, those are the sort of things you want to keep in your head, Tom, because there's enemies of yours now who are thinking, Tom, guess what I've got you for Christmas? We're going on a cruise ride. But no, yeah, I think we've all got those, haven't we? I'm just not going to reveal mine. I'm superstitious. Look, I've gone on for long enough, I think, today. I did try to answer some questions, but probably didn't answer as many. But I just wanted to get this video out today, and I will do one next week as well. So thanks, everyone, for watching. I hope it didn't bore you. I hope it had something in for you. And if it did, I feel a little bit, like I say, I feel a little bit awkward doing it anyway, but I know it's the right thing to do. I know it's the right thing to bring to people's attention because it might help somebody. Thanks everyone for watching. Speak to you all soon, and yeah, we've got stuff over the weekend. United stand Liverpool, that's football, all sorts. Speak to you soon.